The Resident Evil 2 came out in 1998, and it took the whole world by storm by perfecting the survival horror formula that was introduced in its predecessor and its forefather. It stars Leon S. Kennedy and Claire Redfield doing whatever they can to survive a zombie outbreak that takes place in Raccoon City Police Department. So how did this game come to be? Well, during its development, Shinji Mikami, the director of the first game, did not return to direct this one as well, but instead, he chose to serve as a producer, with Hideki Kamiya in the director's position. When the game was 80% finished in 1997, Mikami did a playtest of it, and he wasn't satisfied with how it turned out. The version that he played is dubbed as Resident Evil 1.5. And believe it or not, it differs drastically from the game that we all know and love. Let me break down a few differences for you. Leon S. Kennedy remained exactly as he is in the final game. The fans sure must be proud. But same cannot be said for Claire Redfield. Instead of her last name and being a redhead, the second protagonist was originally going to be Elsa Walker, a blonde college student with the goal of taking a vacation in Raccoon City until things got out of hand. Given what she is wearing, Elsa is a motorcycle racer, which isn't too far from one of Claire's traits. But unlike her, Elsa is not blood related to Chris Redfield. This idea was never a thing until they restarted the development of RE2. Another key difference is that Leon and Elsa in this case, they were both going to have two partners in their separate journeys instead of just one. In Leon's case, he was going to tag along with fellow police officer Marvin Brenner and a female scientist named Linda, who is basically a prototype version of Ada Wong. As for Elsa, she was going to be assisted by John, an RPD prisoner who is capable of protection, and Sherry Birkin, whose role apparently remained intact for the final game. The police station is still the main location of the game. However, it was originally designed to be more realistic and more close to an actual police department than the final version. If you didn't know, the police station in the final game was originally built as a museum according to the lore, and that is the source of all these weird statues and puzzles you encounter throughout the game. Without that certain piece of lore, it would have been a different story. The last key difference is a gameplay mechanic in which your character can have the ability to wear armor for protection purposes. Not much to say about this one, and not a big loss in my opinion. So overall, Resident Evil 1.5 offers a lot of interesting ideas, but based on what I've seen, it doesn't feel like it was going to be executed well. So Shinji made the right call to order a development restart for this project, thus giving us one of the best survival horror games of all time. So what makes Resident Evil 2 so special to us exactly? Let's find out. Just like the first game, you have two options of who you want to play as. However, unlike its predecessor, the campaigns from both protagonists are actually interconnecting with each other this time around. Not only that, depending on who you want to play as at first and last, the story will make a lot of significant scenario changes. You can either do Leon A and Claire B, or Claire A and Leon B, resulting in 4 campaigns in total for this game. No matter which path you pick, playing as both characters in a row is mandatory for you to experience the entire storyline. Now you might ask, which one is the canon route? Well, if you play the game all the way through, you will know it's Claire A and Leon B, which is what I'm going to cover throughout this whole video. I will also bring up a few differences from Leon A and Claire B, so no worries. The game starts off with Claire Redfield just casually riding towards Raccoon City. You know, since the town is falling apart but no barricades encountered whatsoever. That makes sense. She arrives at this diner where she makes her very first contact with a zombie. And of course, what is a classic Resident Evil game without some cheesy dialogue and acting?
Look, I'm sorry I bothered you, okay? Just don't come any closer.
Speaking of which, during all this, we cut off to a scene far away from the city where a truck driver gets bitten by a zombie, just to give us context of what's going to happen next.
That guy's a maniac! Why'd he bite me?
Love me some 90s. After the encounter with the zombie, Claire reaches the diner's exit, she meets up with Leon, and they both make their way through the city with a convenient police car.
What's going on? I arrived in town, and the whole place went insane.
The radio's out.
You're a cop, right?
Really, Claire? You're asking him that when he's clearly wearing a police uniform? During this small conversation, these guys get interrupted by a cliched zombie hiding in the backseat, which is clearly reusing the same character model as Leon, and they get into a crash. What's really interesting about this scene is that if you do Claire A, the car crashes with its front onto the pole, but if you do Leon A, then the car will crash with its back instead. You see, devs? Nothing is impossible with these pre-rendered cutscenes. And just like that, the truck driver from before joins the party by separating Leon and Claire from each other. And this is where the game begins. Claire escapes a bunch of zombies through the streets until she reaches a gun store where she meets up with Kendall, who is only here to be a creep and die in a matter of seconds.
Don't you worry, girlie. You'll be safe in here. I'm keeping a close eye on things.
After all this mumbo-jumbo, Claire makes her way to the police station safe and sound. And this is where the game shows its true selling point. The Raccoon City Police Department, RPD for short, is basically the Spencer Mansion, but with more variety and personality. Zombies, safe rooms, fixed camera angles, limited ammo, environmental exploration, different enemies, and puzzles. Wait, you're thinking what I'm thinking? This whole city pretty much defines the true experience of survival horror. It plays just like the first game, but with more content, more polish, and more immersion. I could easily say that this game just does everything better than the first game in the gameplay department, which is something Alone in the Dark 2 did not do at all! There are also some things that make this game even more iconic than its predecessor. For instance, when you explore this specific hallway, you will trigger the best enemy introduction of the whole game, the Licker, and the name just says it all. This has to be probably the best enemy design of the whole game, and this is not the type of creature that you can deal with just one pistol. You're gonna need a bigger weapon. Also, you should know that if you don't pick any items during the intro, you can meet our old friend Brad Vickers, the pilot from the first game, zombified and roaming around underneath the entrance of the station. If you kill him, he will give you a key to this locker where you can unlock a special weapon and outfit for both characters respectively. Not only is the gameplay superior in every way, but RE2 also did something that not a lot of games tend to do these days. Of course, I'm talking about the Zapping System. To give you a brief summary, the Zapping System is pretty much referring to the choices that you make in the A scenario that will carry over to the B scenario. Let's break down a few examples. If you unlock Brad's appearance at the entrance, then he will reappear in the B scenario. If you use the electric cord for one of the hallway panels, then the shutters will remain shut until they break halfway through the second run. In the middle of your journey, you will face against a giant alligator which serves as sort of a gimmick boss. If you kill it with a propane tank, it'll be dead for the rest of the story. But if you consume ammo on it, then it will just walk away until you fight him again in the second run, where you have no choice but to put it out of its misery. Last but not least, you have a choice between an inventory pack or an SMG from the specific locker. You can either take one of them and save the other for the B scenario, or just take both and leave the other protagonist empty-handed. This game, a PlayStation 1 release no less, has more effective choices than a Turtle game. Do tell. In terms of the story, it's serviceable enough as the first game, but its lore building took things to a whole new level, being the main reason why this franchise remains relevant even after 30 years. Throughout this game, you can come across the Star's office where you can learn a bit more about the characters from the first game. For instance, if you inspect Wesker's desk table multiple times, you will find a very hidden film roll, and when you develop it in this room, the picture shows Rebecca in a basketball outfit. Rude much, Wesker? Anyways, throughout Claire's campaign, she first meets up with Officer Marvin Brenner, and he tells her that her brother Chris and the other STARS members have disappeared after surviving the Spencer Mansion. They try to warn the whole city about a potential new outbreak, but the chief of police refused to listen, thus getting them suspended from the force. Marvin gives her a key card to access another room, and of course, when she leaves, he happens to get up very quickly and lock the room despite being wounded. I wish I was that fast when I wake up in the morning. Later in the game, Claire comes across a random little girl named Sherry Birkin, and she will become her companion throughout her entire campaign. Sherry has her own playable segment where she gathers necessary items for Claire, and you will serve as her protector for the rest of the game. Claire's main purpose was to find her brother Chris Redfield, but since she learned that he's not in Raccoon City, Sherry became her main priority in the current situation. You can easily tell that their companionship was heavily inspired by Ripley and Newt from Aliens. Claire Redfield was played by Alison Court, who is pretty much known for playing Jubilee in X-Men the Anime series, and she became an icon for the character after voicing her for 14 years, until she got replaced by Ali Hillis in Revelations 2. The saddest thing about Alison Court is that the last time she voiced Claire was in Operation Raccoon City. Claire fans, you have my sympathy. Anyway, during her journey, Claire also happens to meet up with the chief of police, Brian Irons. And right off the bat, you can easily tell that there's more to this man than meets the eye. Like I said previously, he suspended the whole STARS unit, not for his own beliefs, but to prevent them from actually investigating the Umbrella Corporation. Chief Irons was heavily paid by this company so he can protect all of their secrets and locations. It wasn't just him being greedy. Chief Irons also happens to be an alleged serial killer. Like during the outbreak, he killed some of the officers and refugees in the RPD due to a mental breakdown, including this woman on his table whose name is Catherine Warren, the daughter of the Raccoon City mayor who fled when this whole shit started. Not only did he shoot her mercifully dead, he was also planning to turn her corpse into a stuffed trophy, like all these stuffed animals he has in his office. You know, betraying your own unit is one thing, but this? Humans are scarier than zombies sometimes. After his shady shenanigans, Claire learns that Irons was bribed by William and Annette Birkin. Not only do they happen to be Sherry's parents, but they are also part of the Umbrella Corporation, and they are the main reason why Raccoon City went to shit. When reaching the sewers, Claire and Sherry get separated by inconvenience, and after passing out inside this garbage chute, Sherry gets parasitized by this mysterious monster. Then Claire meets up with Annette Birkin, and she tells her how this whole thing happened in the first place. Her husband William was a researcher for a virus called Golgotha, known in shorthand as the G virus, and he created it with the intention of mutating humans into superior subspecies. Just like Wesker, he was planning to betray Umbrella by sending the G virus to the US military, and because of that, Umbrella sent a mercenary unit after him to confiscate his G and T samples. The alpha team of this unit is led by this guy, Hunk, and Hunk quickly became a fan favorite among the fanbase, simply because this guy is fully dedicated to his job. He's devoid of emotion, he has no family, we don't know what he looks like, and his real name is completely non-existent. He simply just gave up his entire normal life just to be a full-time soldier. His code name Hunk allegedly stands for Human Unit Never Killed. I said allegedly because I couldn't find any conclusive evidence for this information, even if it makes a ton of sense. Nevertheless, Hunk and his team find Birkin, he is resisting his arrest, and this soldier shoots him down. Miraculously, William survived the attack. Annette tried to help him somehow, but William decided to inject himself with the G virus in order to get revenge on these mercenaries. He caught up to them in the end, but unfortunately, Birkin lost control of himself. He ate those samples, and he became a full-fledged abominable monster. Because of all this, some simple leftovers have been spread by the rats, and this is how the outbreak began. Later on, Claire reunites with Sherry. She learns that she got infected with the G virus, and you will have your first official boss fight with her father on this elevator. Yep, this is in fact William Birkin, who infected his own daughter and serves as a recurring boss fight for both Claire and Leon throughout this entire game. He goes through multiple transformations as the story goes on, and calling him the most grotesque creature of the whole game would be an understatement. Claire tends to find a vaccine for Sherry through this Umbrella lab called Nest. She meets up again with a paranoid Annette this time around, and she just dies to William like this very quickly.
Save my daughter. And tell her I'm sorry I wasn't a better mother. Tell her I love her. Sherry.
Kinda underwhelming, don't you think? Sherry didn't even get to reunite with her mother. Through her walkie-talkie, Claire tells Leon to escort Sherry to the train, and she arrives just in time to save her from mutation. The game ends with Leon, Sherry, and Claire riding off and escaping. I was just kidding. This is the end of Claire A. Now we move on to Leon B. So after the truck explosion, we now get to experience what Leon has been doing this entire time. And to be honest, there's not really much happening in the first few hours of his campaign. So let's cut to the straight spotlights. Throughout this whole scenario, Leon will be stalked by a tyrant that was dropped by Umbrella via an helicopter with the purpose of killing every survivor in the RPD. This is TOO, also known as Mr. X, and his appearance is pretty much exclusive to the B scenario. He will appear in different places to catch you off guard and give you a knockout, but you can easily escape him by entering different rooms, or just shoot him until he falls down, having the potential to give you useful ammo. I don't really have much to say about him because for me personally, I found him uninteresting in this whole game. In the RPD parking lot, Leon meets up with Ada Wong, and this is not her very first introduction in the franchise, considering that she was mentioned in the first game, where her first name was used as the password by her boyfriend John Clements. Speaking of which, Ada uses John as an excuse for her presence in the RPD, and the first thing she wants to do is to meet up with Ben Bertolucci. They eventually find him in this particular jail cell, but he has no intention of getting out. Ben is a freelance journalist who looked into the bizarre murders that took place in the Arklay Mountains, and he was interested in finding out the truth about the Spencer Mansion and the last remaining survivors of the STARS unit. Because he was close to learning that Chief Irons was involved in all of this, the chief arrested Ben right away and locked him out to prevent the exposure. In any case, Ben doesn't have much to do in this game other than giving specific hints and being a victim to G. Birkin. Despite having the worst first day of his career, Leon tends to stick with Ada and do whatever they can to find out the truth about the outbreak and save whoever they can. Leon S. Kennedy was played by Paul Haddad, and this will be his only voice acting credit for a video game in his whole career, up until his final role in Daymar 1998, before he tragically passed away from throat cancer in May 2020. Rest in peace. Unlike Claire, Leon and Ada become rivals with Annette Birkin, and eventually, Leon confronts Annette alone, and she tells him that Ada is a mercenary spy with the purpose of stealing a sample of the G virus. Her client for this mission is none other than Albert Wesker. Yes, he's alive, but I won't explain why until I review this game. Leon goes through the lab looking for Ada, but Mr. X pops out of nowhere to ruin the day by grabbing Ada and tossing her onto this console before falling into this molten metal. After that, Leon just kisses Ada before dying.
Ada. No.
I can only speak for myself, but this kiss did not feel earned at all. Women are Leon's kryptonite, and this won't be the last time. So Leon escorts Sherry to the train, he goes outside to prepare it for evacuation, but before the final steps, he is confronted by Mr. X in his final form. This is basically just the final boss from the very first game. However, Mr. X is way more agile, and he is literally spamming the charge attack, which can get very annoying at times. Thankfully, this fight isn't too long, because in the next few seconds, a silhouette of a woman pops out of nowhere. I mean, come on, we all knew this was Ada. If you didn't, I'm worried about you. So Ada drops a rocket launcher for Leon, and we get the exact camera work for the final attack on the tyrant, just like the one from the first game. I'm kinda mixed about this. I understand the limitation and the need to save resources, but in my opinion, this is just lazy, even for its time. So now we finally get to the true finale of RE2, The game continues after the ending of Scenario A, where Leon in this case goes to investigate the situation in the back car, where he confronts the final transformation of G. Birkin. Jesus Christ, this guy refuses to admit death more than Kenny from South Park. But nonetheless, this is by far the grossest he has ever looked. He's a full-on abomination just eating the entire train. And the only thing you need to do is just waste all of your bullets until the cutscene is triggered. The game ends with Nest blowing to smithereens, including Birkin at this moment, and the group has finally made it out of the city.
We have to go. We don't have any time to waste.
Go? Where?
Hey, it's up to us to take out Umbrella.
Yeah, Resident Evil 4 begs to differ. But before we end the video, I have two more things to discuss. Let's talk about some moments that only happen in Leon A Claire B route. And just so you know, this entire campaign is not canon to the lore of this franchise. In Leon A, Leon does meet up with Marvin, who was supposed to be his mentor for this job if the outbreak never happened. Just as you know, Chief Irons gets parasitized by G. Birkin and dies from the embryo cutting his body in half. But in Claire B, the Chief just gets torn apart by Birkin directly. Same thing happens with Ben in Leon's story, but vice versa. Cherry in this timeline never gets infected with the G virus, therefore she escapes this whole mess in one piece. Also, she does get to have a moment where she says goodbye to her mother dying on the floor. Speaking of which, the fate for both Annette and Ada is completely different this time around. Annette gets injured by some ceiling pipes, Ada reveals her true colors to Leon in the center of Nest, she gets shot by Annette, Leon tries to save her, and she falls to her death. Then Leon angrily throws the G sample away, and Annette gets to see her daughter for the last time afterwards. This is something I think everyone agrees was done better in this route than the canon one, because Annette's death in the canon was painfully underwhelming. And finally, the ending plays differently in Claire B. Instead of sharing confidence of stopping Umbrella, Claire reminds Leon that she still has to find her brother.
Chris, I have to find you.
This seems more natural to end the story in my opinion. It just sucks that this plotline won't be solved until a sequel that doesn't have a number on the title. No matter how amazing this game is, I do have one specific issue with it. There are some inconsistencies within the story, and it's mostly due to the puzzles, because no matter which scenario and which character you're playing as, you are more or less forced to solve the exact same puzzles, like the helicopter fire, these bus statues, the 3 flooded boxes, and the clock tower, to name a few. Shouldn't these have already been done by the time you play through the B scenario? Like, who solved what and when? I know this is just a game, but the lack of consistency can ruin the immersion, and I can't wait to rant more about that in the future. Overall, that's all I had to say about Resident Evil 2, so let's wrap this up. Resident Evil 2 is almost a perfect game in general, but it's definitely perfect when it comes to continuing the legacy that originated with its predecessor. Like I said previously, it did exactly what Alone in the Dark 2 failed to do. RE2 did not take away the survival horror aspect, it provided us with much better lead characters, the puzzles are fairly made well, it did not make us waste too much time playing as weaponless characters, the new monsters are more memorable and fun to fight against, and there are just more reasons to replay it over and over again. It is not a surprise that people have been begging for a remake of this game for 2 decades since the release of the first one, and we did. While this may not be the scariest game in the world, maybe even less scary than the first game, it still made you feel vulnerable in some areas, and the key to making through all of this is resource management. Resident Evil 2 remains a fan favorite among the fanbase, even to this day, and it shall be remembered as the first game that made people feel invested in one of the best game franchises of all time. Even though I praise this game so much and proved why it's amazing, it's not on my personal top 5 of this franchise. That's probably because I personally like some other entries more. But I'll never be upset when someone says this is their favorite game in the franchise. With all that being said, let's hand out the verdict. This video finds Resident Evil 2 from 1998 viable at full price. That's all I have for today, ladies and gents. The video is adjourned.